Hi, my name is Helena Cowan and I am the Principal Psychotherapist at Chana and also Chana's Honorary Executive Director. And today I am chatting to Helena Cowan, who is a psychotherapist. She's a consultant to Chana, one of Chana's supervisors. She's the clinical expert on the Chana's advisory panel and also the co-principal of Open Door, which is in Harringay. Today, in our series of videos, we are going to look at the emotional impact of the virus, of COVID. And not only the impact of the virus on all of us, and it will impact us on all of us in very individual and unique ways. And our response to it will be as individual. But we're also going to try and understand what it might mean for those people who are going through fertility challenges at the same time. And those people who have been through fertility challenges and are fortunately pregnant at this time, what extra challenges there might be for them during this time of COVID. Helena, how do we as individuals respond to the ongoing traumas around us?
Well, I think the first thing to say, Caroline, really is that I think, this is new for all of us. A pandemic is something none of us have lived through before. So we are researching, we are thinking about it, we are responding and looking at what's happening. So we are all new to this. I suppose what I would say, and what I'm sort of picking up from clinical work, is that I see it sort of very much a bit like an onion. That on the outside of the onion, we are all dealing with the same thing. We are dealing with this pandemic, we are dealing with the news every day, we are trying to think about what that means to the world, really. So that's the sort of outside, and we're all exposed to that, and we all have different reactions to that, but it has changed all of our lives at the moment. And then I think if we kind of go on in the onion, go to the next sort of layer, then there are also sort of people's personal kind of experiences with their friends, family, communities, and those also are really difficult to manage, and they will be different. So people with elderly parents trying to sort of manage the isolation of that, or communities where there's a lot of loss and a lot of grief, managing all of that. So there's a sort of there's that layer. But then kind of as we go in to the onion, you have got the sort of your own very kind of personal experiences, which you would have been having before the pandemic, and you went into the pandemic with those experiences. And I guess today we're thinking about those people that struggle with infertility, or people that have struggled with infertility and are now pregnant, and what that means to them, how they manage to remain, if they were due to have treatment, how do you manage to stay in a waiting room for longer? How do you manage the kind of uncertainty of when your treatment will start, or what that will look like? And how, if you're in the middle of treatment, what does that all mean? And other people around you, the hospitals, the people that you thought were caring for you, what kind of position are they in? So I think that, on a very kind of personal level, people will be struggling with all sorts of things: anxiety, frustration, disappointment, fear, or being pregnant but not sure whether the people they had hoped would kind of keep them quite stable and care for them, what sort of situations they're in.
And they'll also be experiencing loss in all sorts of different ways.
Yeah.
Loss of normality, perhaps loss of friends or relatives, loss of the normal work environment.
Yeah. And loss of support. I think that, perhaps the ordinary support that you might have got from, your relatives that you're now not able to see, or and I think actually the other thing sort of saying is absolutely right, that kind of loss of normal life that kind of allowed you to keep on going, kind of regardless. So whether you're struggling with, you may be struggling with infertility, but at least your day might have been filled with something quite different. So that's sort of part of your mind almost is no longer occupied, and so the focus kind of can very easily come back onto all the things that you're actually anxious and you're worried about. So I think that's another issue for people, and including that, I think it also includes being if you're pregnant. Yeah.
And so what do we do in these times when we have such unique and individual responses and unique situations? What can we do to help us through this, as none of us know how long this is for? It's not like a marathon where you know the end. We don't know what's going to happen next and when this will all end.
Yeah. Well, I think there are two things. I certainly think with people I'm working with, that I think actually having a space to talk about how you feel and not having to do what I call the Pollyanna effect, which is not having to kind of always feel that you have to put a brave face, you have to be very positive, you have to say, you know, woken up in the morning and I set my kind of goals, and I, you know, actually have a space to say, this feels really, really hard, or this is really, really hard. I think that's really important. But in order for that to not become kind of completely overwhelming, I think also there are kind of, you know, there are, you know, people keep talking about doing mindfulness, and we know from neuroscience that will get the adrenaline down. But we also know that kind of sitting and meditating is a skill. It takes time to learn it almost. So I also think the very ordinariness of kind of, I don't know, if your thing is baking or hanging up the washing or
Mopping the kitchen floor.
Mopping the kitchen floor. Something that kind of gets into a different part of the brain, not the part of the brain that kind of says, I am very, very scared, or I'm very worried, or I'm very disappointed, or, you know, parts of your brain, even sort of, I guess, reading, or some things that you enjoy that are not about the things that you worry about. And to not be harsh on yourself. I think there's a kind of a need to be gentle, to accept that you are absolutely allowed to feel how you feel, and you are also absolutely allowed to indulge in something that makes you feel, for a short time, a little bit calmer. Yeah, so I think
What you're describing is you're encouraging us to use different parts of ourselves in order to get an equilibrium even in these challenging times. So we might be pulling on our domesticity and get ourselves totally distracted in cleaning a shower, and that will take us away from the anxiety around our emotions. But at times it's okay to face those emotions and to sit with those emotions and feel them. And also if it does overwhelm, then there are organizations such as ourselves, particularly for us, for fertility, people can still reach us on a helpline, and people can reach us through email, and all our psychotherapists are working online and talking just like you and I are. But if someone's problems and challenges are not fertility related, there are many charities out there that are responding to the traumas that people are facing at this time.
Yeah, and I think what I would say is that at the beginning of the crisis, there was a lot of advice online, you know, keep to a routine, and you know, all those sort of ideas of, you know, set yourself some goals, and I think all of those things are really positive and helpful. But what also was happening was people were giving themselves quite a hard time if they couldn't manage that. And so that's why I say being sort of gentle. You will have days when you do get up and go for a walk, and other days when actually that just does not feel possible because you are just too upset. And actually that's okay, because you have an absolute right to be upset and disappointed and worried.
So you're encouraging people to find that kind and compassionate friend within themselves. You say, hey, you're doing a good job, you're doing this fine, and yes, it's okay to be emotional, and let's just keep going. This is tough. Acknowledging and validating for oneself that what we're facing is incredibly challenging.
Yeah.
Helena, It has been so useful. We could probably chat for ages, but I think our time has come to an end. Thank you, Helena, and anyone who's watching, I wish you well from everyone at Chana.